Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about the newest palette from Nomad Cosmetics. I'm really excited about this. This is the New Zealand Stargazing palette. If you haven't already seen this, it is a beautiful color story. I do apologize that I haven't been able to get this video up before the launch, but I was out of state for a couple days and it's just busy right now. We actually closed on a house yesterday, so we're gonna be moving next month probably, so just a lot happening, but I'm still really excited about makeup obviously, but I have to sort of prioritize what I'm gonna be filming currently because I do want to do a declutter series because listen, I'm moving, like I said, things need to go. I have too much makeup. So we're gonna be talking about this palette today. I'm gonna show you two looks. I've already filmed one look. We're gonna do one look on camera together. I think I said this palette is already available and I'm really excited because this is possibly my favorite color story from Nomad that at least they've come out with in a very long time. Like I feel like they really did something with this and I feel like it's very like focused in a good way without being repetitive, and I think there's a lot you can do with this palette and I'm excited to do another look with it. I really like the look that I did yesterday that I ended up wearing all day. It wore beautifully and yeah, I'm just excited to play more with this palette. I think for today's look I want to do something with the blues. I played a little more with like the pinks and the purples in the first look, so you'll see that once I'm done with this, but I really want to do something with the blue multichrome because I want to test that out, and since that is a black based multichrome and it's quite dark, it makes sense to do more of a dark look to go with this. So we're just gonna kind of see what happens, see where I end up. I am, like I said, super excited, so we're just gonna go ahead and jump in. I think I feel like I want to use this shade, maybe this shade. I feel like that's very blue and this is more like a purpley blue. I'm gonna do this one and this one, maybe a little bit of the black. So we're gonna do basically this corner here and then probably a little bit of this one in the front as well as the inner corner. So let's just see what happens when I do this. I'm gonna start with a gray transition shade, which I don't wear grays very often, but every time I do, I always really end up liking the look that I end up with. Anyway, we're just gonna see how these play together, if they build well, if they blend well. I did have some issues in my first look with the purple that I used, but I did build it on top of like two other colors, so I don't know if it was my fault, but at this point I do feel like brands should be able to make purples that are buildable because so many brands are able to do it. So like if you're not able to do it, you know, I think back in the day it was more of a understandment that like purples were hard to make, and if they're not great, like that's just because it's a purple. But like I said, I have so many purples in my collection now that are super buildable and easy to work with, and I'm definitely thinking about Blend Bunny here because they have the best purple mattes. So I'm curious to see how the blue is going to lay on top of this. I always feel so weird when I use like super cool tone shadows because it's not really what I gravitate towards. And I always feel like it doesn't suit me that well, but then when the look is done, I always end up loving it, like I said. So we'll see. I think I'm gonna do probably the purpley blue. So we're gonna do this one. I'm gonna use this to deepen up my outer corner and my crease. I might use a little bit of the black. I haven't quite decided. I'll see just kind of how this is looking when I'm done with it. I already feel like this one is performing better than the purple did. I don't know what it is about purples. Like purples just seem to, like I said, be really hard to make, and I'm not sure if it's like a special pigment in the shadow that makes it just hard to sort of be opaque and buildable. I really don't know. Like I don't make eyeshadows, so I can't tell you, but this is looking really nice. Like that is performing so beautifully that I have absolutely no complaints with the shadow, and I really, really like the color of this. I feel like it's not a color that you see in a lot of palettes, like with this undertone. So I'm excited to have this one in my collection. And I'm also just really excited to do a declutter. Like I feel like even though I do it every year, there's something about letting go of stuff that you just don't use anymore and to just free up some space, especially as someone who reviews so much makeup. Things just sort of pile up without you realizing it, and all of a sudden you're sitting in a whole room of eyeshadows that you will never be able to use. And I'm like running out of room behind me in my bookshelf because I have so many palettes. So I'm really excited to do a super ruthless declutter. Like, I will not be keeping a lot of stuff, and anything that is like old, that I feel like is old, that I just don't use anymore, because I gotta be realistic. Like, there's a lot of palettes in my collection that I really love, but like, am I really gonna use them because of how many things I get into my collection? And I just don't always have time to go back to like older products. And also, I feel like the excitement factor kind of, you know, dies down a little bit after you've used something for a while and you get new things coming in. And I feel that way about like clothing and fashion too. It's like you're really excited about that pair of pants like the first 10 times you wear it, but then, you know, you get another new pair of pants in that you also really love, and like then you start using that, and those old pair of pants that you still really love just don't get as much love anymore, and they're just not as exciting because you've worn them so much. And it's kind of the same thing with makeup. And at some point you got to be like, okay, listen, I used to love this, but I don't currently love this anymore, and it can go to a new home, or it's just time to say goodbye. So I will be saying goodbye to a lot of my older palettes, and it'll just feel really good. It'll feel good to have a bit of a fresh start. I'm excited to have a new filming room, even though I'm definitely going to bring my bookshelf because it's just really nice to have in the background because I can put whatever I want on it. And I know this isn't like great the way it is right now. I just needed to switch out the seasons, and I didn't have a ton of stuff that I felt like was appropriate for this time of the year. And I also don't really want something that's like season, like binding to the season, because then, you know, if people end up watching your older videos, they might not want to see like Christmas stuff in the background if it's not Christmas at the moment, you know what I mean? So maybe try to do something a little more neutral in the future, but I do need to just like buy more stuff for that, because I'm not someone who really enjoys interior design. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, I'm not someone who spends all my time looking for like decor and stuff, because it's not something that interests me very much. Anyway, I think this looks really nice. I might go in with the black. Actually, you know what? Let's go in with the black. I'm kind of feeling it. I just want this to be a really, really dark and dramatic look, and I want it to be like kind of spacey, you know? Which sort of makes sense. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of that on the outer corner of my eye. I don't think I want it underneath my eye. I just want all the darkness to be in the outer corner. And I'm keeping it kind of light in the front because I just feel like that looks better with my eye shape, to not like really close off the front portion of my eye. It just makes the eyes appear bigger and wider, and that's exactly what I want. And that is a really, really nice black. So I think maybe I just got a little bit unlucky with the purple when I used it. I will show you the footage, obviously, of that after I'm done with this look, but I just had some issues with like building it, and it was a little bit patchy, but I did just layer some shimmers over the top and it was fine. But you know, I prefer not to have to do that every time. But maybe this is a palette that I just don't use for the purple, because I have so many purples in my collection that it is totally fine. Oh, I really like that. That looks so good. I am, of course, going to use some glitter primer because that is just sort of what I do, and I do feel like the multichrome is just going to pop a little bit extra. I always use my NYX glitter primer if you are new and I haven't mentioned it in a while, or if you just forgot, but it is my favorite. I just think it performs really well, and I like the consistency of it, and yeah, I don't really have any complaints. So I'm just gonna put that on the lid where I want that multichrome to be, or just like the shimmers to be, which is basically all over. And we're gonna try the shade called Milky Way, which is this one. So I've said many times in the past that I'm not the biggest fan of black-based multichromes because I feel like they just crease a lot on me. The first shade that I used actually wore really well, so I'm excited about this. But in general, like black-based multichromes just aren't my favorites because I find them a little bit tricky to like blend into mattes and stuff, and I feel like you need to have a really dark crease in order to make it work, which is why I did what I did today. I mean, it's obviously a beautiful, beautiful shade, this is just like a personal preference thing. I want to see how that pink shade is going to layer over the top of this, because it is more of an iridescent sort of, like, I wouldn't say sheer. It's not really a sheer color. I really like the iridescent ones in here. I think they are beautiful. And I love that there are some lighter shimmers in this palette, because for myself, definitely prefer mid-tone to light shimmers. I just find them easier to work with, and you can like do more with them. But that does look really nice. So let's just kind of see what happens when I do go in with the iridescent shade. I'm gonna use this one. I feel like it's gonna just work a little bit better than this one, because this is more cool tone. I haven't used this. I don't think I'm gonna have time to use this. I don't have time to do more than 2 looks with this palette, but this is a shade called Aurora Australis. So we're just gonna use this on the rest of the lid and just see how it looks. So I'm just gonna put that. That is really pretty. I do wish there was sort of a blue iridescent shade in this palette to sort of go with this color story. I feel like that would maybe make sense, but I mean, obviously this is gonna look really nice together too, because it is a cool tone. So I don't think it's gonna look out of place at all. Maybe I'm using a little too much of this, but I just wanna make sure that I have like a good blend between the two shadows. Oh, that actually looks really good. Yeah, I really like that. That is beautiful. I am gonna take a little bit of this under my eye as well, just to wrap it around, because I just love how like iridescent multichromes look under the eye. I just think that they really pop in this area, and I tend to always put on too much because I can't help myself. I put on a little bit and I'm like, I love that, I want more. So I'm just gonna kind of go crazy with this like I usually do, and I guess just do a little bit more blending and make sure that everything is the way I want it to be. But honestly, it's looking pretty good right now. And I think I'm just gonna go ahead and finish off with some lashes and some eyeliner, but I really like how this is looking. I think this is a beautiful look, and I can't wait to see what it looks like when it's all together. Okay, so while my lash glue is drying, I put on kind of some small lashes today, and I feel like I wish I put on some bigger ones. Anyway, while this is drying, I'm gonna show you the other look that I've done with this palette and sort of how I feel about it. So like I was saying before, I did feel like some of the shades that I used in my first look, even the transition shade that I used, it was a little bit on the sheer side, and I noticed that when I swatched it as well. It definitely wasn't as opaque and intense, and it was a little bit dry. I don't know what it was about it, but I felt like it took a little while to like get it to show up, and it wasn't because it was a light shade, but I just felt like it was a bit of a sheer color, which could be intentional because it is supposed to be a transition shade, and I get that. But I think because of the formula of the transition shade is why the other shades didn't layer as well on top of them. I don't know, just like a thought that I have, just my experience, but I did feel like both of the shades that I used on top of it didn't layer that well, and especially the purple was the worst offender. I was able to get a decent application, but if you were to look close up, like you could see there's definitely like splotchiness, and I felt like in the crease where I already had a couple of shades, it just wouldn't stick. Like it wouldn't stick well unless I like really packed it on and like left it alone and did not do anything with it, which is pretty much what I ended up doing. And I did use a shimmer over the top of basically all of the mattes just to make sure that at the end it did look really, really nice. And I went back over the top of the shimmers with the matte again, and I did feel like that helped, and I felt like it stuck a little bit better that way. Overall though, I'm really happy with how the look turned out. I think it was beautiful, and like I said earlier as well, it wore beautifully, which for me, having black based multichromes wear well doesn't happen very often. So far I'm very happy with the multichromes in this palette. The formulas of the multichromes are beautiful. The two iridescent shades are a little bit of that sort of creamy move around in a pan kind of formula, which I don't mind at all, but sometimes it does mean that you have to like just dig your brush a little bit harder into the shade. I'm not sure if you can like see the texture of the pan, but it almost looks like there's hard pan in the shade, but there's not hard pan. Like, does that make sense? Like, I have had palettes from Nomad in the past that gets actual hard pan where I struggle to pick up the shadow, but these kind of just look like it, but you can still pick it up if you like dig in there. So I really like the formulas of the shimmers in this palette. I think the color story as well is beautiful, and I think that If you're just a little bit careful with the purples, I think you'll be totally fine with this. I mean, go in with the purple first if you're worried and then blend it out with the lighter shades. I just prefer going light to dark because it just like, I don't know, I feel like I just get a better blend that way and I don't have to worry so much about like where I'm placing the first and second shade. And I don't know, it's just like a preference thing, and I totally understand that sometimes it is better to go dark to light, but I just don't really do it that often. But if I'm gonna use the purple again in this palette, I would probably do that just to be safe. But overall, I do think it's a nice palette. I think that if you like Nomad and you're used to their formula, I think you're gonna really like this palette. Even if it's your first time trying Nomad, I think you would like this palette. Just be aware that the purple's a little bit iffy, but other than that, I think it's beautiful. So yeah, let me know if you ended up picking up this palette. Is this one of your favorite palettes from Nomad as well? I think the color story is just really well done. And I'm excited to see what they do this year because they always come out with some really fun things and the destinations are always, like, they look amazing. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see some more Nomad content, I do have a big playlist. I'll put that right there. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.